Let's just see if people are coming in. Well, so far, only one person in, so let's see.
2, 3,
Yeah, people are coming in now.
4.
Amy?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Pagoda Board of Education regular virtual meeting, December 15th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Can you please stand for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Pagoda Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Pagoda Borough Hall, communicated by letter to the record, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Pagoda, and posted on the Pagoda Board of Education website. Irving, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Alvarez?
Present.
Mrs. Kearns? Absent. Mrs. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Markel?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Moore? Absent. Mrs. Van Buren?
She's on mute.
Trying. Present.
Ms. Montgomery? Absent. Mrs. Coles?
Here.
We have the quorum.
Thank you. Also present, Mr. Kennedy, the superintendent, Nathaniel Simon, our board attorney, Mr. Epsel, our board administrator, and Elizabeth Ruiz, our assistant board secretary. At this time, can I have a motion to open up to public comments on agenda items?
So moved.
Second, Kathy.
Kathy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
At this time, if anybody would like to come forward regarding agenda items only, please state your name and your address. Okay, I don't see anybody coming forward. Can I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second, Kathy.
Okay, Mr. Kennedy, you're on.
You're muted.
You're on mute.
Just to let everyone know, first, our reorganization meeting will be January 5th. We will be conducting that virtual. More information will be sent out regarding times and links to Zooms. Also tonight, it is 4 board members' last meeting. Sabrina Kearns, Maureen Miller, Pat McHale, and Jim Moore. I first would like to thank them for their time and service to the students of Pagoda. There's a lot of work that goes into being a board member, and it's a thankless job, to say the least. You only usually hear the bad stuff, not always the good stuff, but board members are a big part of the planning and how a district operates. So my hope is that every second and third Tuesday of the month, you can sit in a chair and relax a little bit easier and not have to worry about some of the things that we have to worry about as a board member. But again, I would like to thank them for their time and dedication and their service and wish them very well. A couple other things. Agenda item 12, 15, 20, 25. That is the book club. That should be a 7 through 12 club. We put on there 7 through 8. So I just want to make sure we got that in there, 7 through 12. Also, we have a major snowstorm in the works. If you listen to the news, it could be the end of everything that we know of. Right now, what we are doing is we are planning on Thursday to have a single session virtual only day. So we're already virtual at this point in time. So the thought is, let's just do a single session. Kids will be done by 12:30. It'll give plenty of time for staff and students to get out in the snow and play or shovel out. We want to get the day in, but more importantly, we are coming up on a holiday break. So we figured let's try to save a day when we can use it later in the future if we need more days. So we will be in school on Thursday. We will be monitoring if power is out. If power does go out, then we will have to shut down. But we are going to try and get the day in. Good news, we did receive more CARES Act money, close to $82,000 that we can use for virtual instruction and PPE. So we did receive word on that. We are on schedule to resume January 19th in-person instruction. We are going to stay on that date unless the health department or the DOE recommends that we stay remote. So at this point in time, the numbers are rising, but if we stay in the orange, we do not have to close, but we are being told that if the numbers continue to rise, that we will be instructed to close. So I think the fear of holiday gatherings, numbers will continue to grow, but we will keep the community informed of what's going on a timely basis. We sent information out tonight regarding that as much. I just want to reiterate this too. I think from a district standpoint, from the community, parents, our staff, everyone involved in the process over the last 10 months, it's been a difficult time for many people. You know, I do feel that as we get into 2021, we are getting closer to the end of this. We are beginning to plan how we are going to help students that have fallen behind during this time. We're applying for grants that will help pay for that so we can really offer some great programs after school when we resume in person, also summer programs. But we recognize that parents and students are struggling, and it's going to be our #1 priority to help bring those gaps back, those instructional gaps that we're missing right now back, and help students. So I just ask everyone to please bear with us. Again, we're almost out of this, but everyone is doing their best, and we recognize that, and we're going to continue, hopefully, moving in the right direction. And then finally, I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday, a happy new year. I think this year, if you would have told me we waited last year to midnight to welcome in 2020 to have this type of year, I would have said I couldn't believe it. But I think everyone's looking to move forward to 2021 and a lot of great things that we can take from this, learn from this, and use it from an instruction standpoint virtually. It really pushed us in a direction that we weren't ready to go in completely, but I think it's only going to make us better educators and help us move forward in the future. So again, happy holidays and happy new year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes for November 17th, 2020 regular meeting?
So moved, Kathy.
Second, Maureen.
Second, Maureen. Okay, does anybody have any questions? No? Griffin, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Markel,
I'll recuse.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Van Buren,
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Coles.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, we're going to move on to policy 121520 to 12152014. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Kathy.
Second, Pat.
Second, Pat. Does anybody have any discussion? Okay, no discussion. Irvin, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Alvarez,
I'm sorry, up to what number? 14?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Markel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Van Buren,
Yes. I'm sorry. My computer's sticking.
Mrs. Coles.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Education 12152015 to 12152027. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Pat.
Pat, can I have a second?
Second, Kathy.
Anybody have any discussion?
I just have a question on number 27, please.
Okay.
That's on the senior class trip. Just to clarify, is there any expense to the district?
Damien, you're on mute.
No, I'm sorry, that should have probably been on there, but this is paid for by the students. And the idea is, we don't know if this is going to happen, but we
Right.
have to reserve a spot. And it's with the idea that kids will be able to be refunded. Anything that we enter into, we're making sure kids will be refunded if we cannot go on the trip. But they're only accepting a limited number of students at the park. So we're trying to make sure that at least we grab a slot in case we can get there.
All right, could I make a motion to amend that resolution to include at no cost to the district?
Sure. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Pat? Griffin, can you pull the roll, please?
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Markel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Van Buren,
Yes, yes.
Mrs. Coles.
Yes.
This was for the amend of that resolution. Are we going to call for the approving all the resolutions?
Okay, we'll move on to personnel.
No,
12:15.
Kat, Lisa, what Irfan is saying is that was the motion to.
To amend?
Oh, to amend it.
Right.
Okay.
Just, now we have to have it on
Motion
the main motions.
All right, I would make the motion then to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
Anyone?
Second.
Eileen? Okay, Irfan?
Mrs. Alvarez,
Can you pull the roll?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Markel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Van Buren,
Yes,
Mrs. Coles. Motion carried.
Thank you. Personnel, 12:15/20/28 to 12:15/20/30. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Pat.
Pat, can I have a second?
Second, Maureen.
Second, Maureen. Any discussion? Irfan, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Alvarez,
Yes, for 28 and 30, I abstain from 29.
29,
Yes, I
Excuse-
abstain 29, yes to 28 and 30.
Mrs. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Markel,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Van Buren,
yes.
Mrs. Coles.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We'll move on to finance, 12:15/20/31 to 12:15/20/40. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Pat.
Pat? And
Second, Kathy.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, me, Kathy.
Okay.
On number 39, on the renovations for St. Joe's, that, I believe I'm reading it correctly, the $8,400 includes the renovation? Or this is just the prep work and then the renovation will be more?
Correct.
The renovation will be more?
Yeah, but that will be paid for through the preschool grant because they will be for preschool classrooms.
Okay, thank you. I have another question if I may too.
Okay,
This is something I did speak to Mr. Kennedy about today on number 40. In reading through the contract with St. Joe's, I didn't see anything in there for an early termination clause, and that makes me a little uncomfortable to go into a contract that's that binding. I'd like to see an early termination clause in there so that if we don't need the building the full 5 years, that we're not committed to the payment for full 5 years.
I did speak to the attorney and they were going to speak to them about that to see what it was.
Okay,
They felt that it wasn't something that usually the tenant asks for because then it's kind of like we don't want to go year to year with them because then they can raise the prices.
Oh, I agree 100%, but I'm just saying, actually, the resolution reads that we would use the premises for a period of up to 5 years. I just think that the contract should also reflect that. I think up to 5 years, I believe we're going to need it. I just think it's going to go into something and leave ourselves trapped without the clause for not, otherwise we'd be penalized.
Right. So right now, I do have the attorney is going to reach out to them and ask about that.
I don't think you do that because then it's a year-to-year lease. In other words, if the landlord has no guarantee and knows that you can escape from it, then he's taking a risk, and therefore they don't want to lock in a better rent.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
He said that he could just talk about it, that they've been very agreeable to everything. Okay. And it was just something that's saying, and I got where Kathy was coming from, that let's say we came, that we got more building space or we had a reduction in attendance and students, that we would have an out. But he said he would talk to him about it, but he did say, if you're he said that technically you would be month to month then, if you have and that from their standpoint, they might not be comfortable with that. But he did say he would have a conversation just to see where they stood on that.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you. As long as they're looking at it and that we're covered. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, Irvin, can you pull the rolls, please?
Before we call the roll, there is actually two words missing in that resolution, number 40. In the paragraph 5, it says submission of the project. It should say submission of this other project, other capital project.
Liz, do you have it?
Okay, and the submission of the other project?
Other capital project.
Other capital, okay, thank you.
Okay, Irvin, can you pull the roll, please?
Mrs. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Markel?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Buren?
Yes.
Mrs. Coles?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We'll move on to committee reports. Does anybody have any committee reports?
I do.
Okay, Kat?
Just to report back, if you recall, I brought to you a resolution that was going to be discussed at the Delegates Assembly about a board member was still on a board and wanted to run for a different seat with a different year term to it. They had to resign from the seat they were in. The conversation, I would have to say, was an hour or two. They did resolve it. I can read you what it says, and I can give you a little bit of a background on it to keep it brief. And Irfan, I can send this to you if you want me to, so you have the language on it. The New Jersey School Board believes that a board member whose seat is not up for re-election in the upcoming election cycle should resign the seat currently held before submitting a nominating petition to become a candidate for a board seat other than the seat currently held by the member on the same board. It's sort of a tongue twister, but if I explain it, it makes a little bit more sense. Bear with me. And this is literally their explanation. I'm going to read you the explanation. First of all, it says, if elected, a person agrees to accept and qualify into that office. So a person, once they have been elected, they've said they're going to serve the full the full term. So they shouldn't be then cutting that term short to run for another term. They should be committed to the term as they were elected. It then reads, Nathaniel, this answers your question about the legal case matter on it. These statutory provisions, combined with the well-settled law coming out of Kukin and Guzman, 1990, blah, blah, support the proposition that seated board members with more than a year remaining in their current term should resign that position if they wish to run for another seat seeking another 3-year term. The intent of holding in this case was to ensure the integrity of the board election process and that the electorate would not be deprived of a real choice, having made aware before it votes of the composition of the board. Additionally, the commissioner was concerned that, quote, to allow such activity would also frustrate the statutory scheme whereby 1/3 of the board stands for election each year, end quote. In sum, a board member agrees to accept and to qualify into that office for which he or she is elected. Do not see that obligation through in order to seek a different seat and term activates the vacancy filling procedures, thus denying voters the full and fair election process. So it did pass unanimously with that reasoning. I was also wrong. One of you asked me a question at that meeting. If a person were to resign, did that create a vacancy? And I said, no, they would serve until reorg. I was wrong. They would have to resign before the clerk would accept their petition. And once they did resign, that would obviously create a vacancy on the board, again, turbulating the board structure. And that vacancy would then have to be filled by the sitting board just until the next election. So it was voted. They tried to reword it, but there was no case law on the way they tried to reword it. So that's why it's a little tongue-tied the way it is. Did I confuse everybody completely?
Kathy, so say I have 1 year to go. And
Yes.
Open seat in the election coming up for 3 years. And I wanted to take the 3 years. Is that what you're saying? I would have to resign?
If your term would extend past the next election, but you want to run in the next election, you would have to resign. If your term is up by the next election and you're going to run again, no, it doesn't apply to you.
Right.
It just applies if your term would extend past the election, but you want to run in the election.
Right. Okay.
You want people to stay on the election process, the cycle. Makes sense. It happened, and also as somebody asked what prompted it, it did happen in Lodi. And it became such a problem with the clerk that the gentleman who attempted to do that withdrew, and hence they came up with this resolution so that nobody else would have such a complicated scheme. All right. Also, just very quickly, I had a county meeting yesterday, and West Windsor Plainsboro had an absolutely incredible program. 2 students presented this. They were also interviewed, and there's a YouTube video on it. They, in their attempt to have everything gender equal and really make their school more inclusive, their homecoming, which of course most things haven't happened, but instead of having a king and queen, they've replaced that to where they now have, instead of it being sort of a popularity contest where 6 girls are nominated, 6 boys are nominated, and they pick 1 and 1 and they're king and queen, what they have done is they've changed it into 15 people are nominated. Each of those 15 does a 1-minute little presentation. They put it on Facebook or whatever, wherever they have their social media. So all the kids can see it. And out of those 15, they pick 5 who then serve. Now their mascot is the Knights. So they call it the Court and the Knights of the Round Table because they use, obviously Buccaneers of the Round Table wouldn't work. But the girls are even very willing to speak to other people. I just thought it was very interesting, and I could send the video to any of you if you wanted. I could forward it. It was just very, very well done. The girls were very interesting about it. And then last but not least, future discussions for the County Association are going to be focusing on the fact that students, and as Damien was just saying, students in their academic progress, many of the districts are now seeing that students that failed the first marking period are now failing the second marking period. So where is that going to lead as far as children being able to move up a grade and, passing, failing the whole academic year? So there's going to be a lot of discussion on that after the new year. That's me. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have the negotiating committee met with the administrators. They're the last contract that we have to complete. And we decided, instead of rushing this, to hold off until we have our new board members and see who's on the committee and take it from there. So that's the last contract we have to complete.
Great.
All right, everyone's okay with that, I'm sure.
Makes sense.
Okay, does anybody have any old business? New business? Okay, can I have a motion to open up to public comment?
So moved.
Who said that?
Second.
Eileen, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, if anybody would like to come forward, just state your name and your address. Okay, I don't see anybody
Oh,
coming forward.
just one.
Hi, Mike. Mike, are you there? He's on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I wish everybody happy holidays. I also would like to second the superintendent's gratitude to the board members who are leaving this December. And I thank you all for your service. I know what it is like to be up there, and it is a thankless job, but you know, someone has to do it, I guess. So the four of you, I do thank you for your service, and I hope you stay involved. A couple of quick things on the agenda, if it's possible. The agenda that was posted on the website did not have 38, 39, and 40 listed on it. It stopped at 37. I was following along as you guys were going through it, but I don't know if there's a way to have that agenda maybe adjusted and reposted.
Yeah, I got it. It must have been when it was loaded. I got to check it. I'll double check it, but we can get up there tomorrow.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I did miss the last meeting, and I'm not sure what the plans. I did not know that St. Joe's was being used for the future. I'm not sure if that was discussed at the last meeting. If it was, my apologies, and I'll check in with the superintendent tomorrow or the next day to get more details. But maybe just a quick thing about what the plans are for St. Joe's for next year. And the last question has to do with community service. A few years ago, when myself and other people were on the Board of Ed, we actually had community service that was working wonderfully with our seniors in particular to help them with snow removal and leaves and things like that. And, you know, obviously we all know there's a storm coming tomorrow night. And, you know, a lot of our seniors do not have, you know, the ability to clean a full driveway and their steps, and it's dangerous, and we don't want our seniors doing that. I just had a quick question as regards, is it possible, you know, 24 hours ahead of this thing to maybe, you know, rustle up some of the kids for community service? Or are we even still doing community service?
Yes, they still have to do the community service to graduate. I know in the last couple of years, the football team and the wrestling team usually got involved. If we found out of any, they usually contact the school or the board office, and we get addresses, and we send kids there the day of. So if we have addresses, usually the kids go there. But yes, the kids do still have to complete the community service hours to graduate, and they don't get their diploma until they do so. St. Joe's.
Oh, sorry. I know on the Pagoda page they did it for, they have a list of kids that are available for shoveling.
Yeah, but I believe, Maureen, that was a paid thing, and you know, a lot of our seniors are on fixed income.
Yeah. Well, some of them might want to do it for volunteer, but it's worth a shot.
No, I know, and that was the only reason I actually brought this up, because I did see the same thing. I saw it advertised as a paid thing, and listen, I don't have any problem with entrepreneurship and kids making money shoveling snow, but you know, they can do that for everybody else. Our seniors shouldn't have to pay for this.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the high school principal tomorrow, and I know they have kids that are involved, and the coaches too. So usually they get their kids out. It's good exercise.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And then St. Joe's, there's no set plan right now. We know we are putting 2 preschool classrooms in that. I do know that our elementary schools are, you know, crowded, and we would like to create more classroom space. So our next thing will be the plan of getting some kids in that building for next year, create more classroom space, along with the River Club, any extra kids we get from there. But the population has, you know, I think we got 100 more kids this year than we did last year at this time. I think a lot of houses were sold, and a lot more places. There's not too many vacant houses, I was told, that people are moving out of cities and into suburbs. So that's the plan right now.
Appreciate it.
There's a message in the chat regarding shoveling for the senior citizens from Cherry Solobov about calling Jeannie, I believe Jeannie Rosado, and they can help arrange volunteers.
Jeannie Cook, she said.
I'm sorry, but I don't know if anyone's going to be in the borough to answer the calls. They might be shut down for Thursday or maybe half a Wednesday, so that might be a little difficult. I don't know. Mike, I don't know if you know if they're going to be open. I'm not sure.
I believe they're open tomorrow, but Thursday might be a big maybe. I doubt Thursday. But tomorrow, if anybody wants to make a call, they could, I'm sure. We could actually reach out. I could reach out to the mayor and possibly do a reverse 911. And seniors that need help, they could then call the, I guess, the borough office or, my number, whoever, it doesn't matter. As long as we can coordinate. We don't want people getting heart attacks trying to shovel a foot full of snow.
All right.
Sherry has offered that people can call her too. So maybe Mike, you could network with Sherry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see anybody else. Okay, can I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved, Pat.
Pat, can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this point, we're going to go into executive session. Whereas C231 PL 1975, also known as the Sunshine Law, authorizes a public body to meet in executive or private session under certain limited circumstances. And whereas said law requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public meeting before it can meet in such an executive or private session. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Bogota Board of Education that it does hereby determine that it is necessary to meet an executive session on December 15th at 7:32 p.m. to discuss matters involving property and attorney-client privilege. That the matter discussed will be made public when confidentiality is no longer required and action pursuant to said discussion shall take place only at a public meeting. Action may be taken upon return from executive session. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Pat.
Pat, can I have a second?
Second, Maureen.
Second, Maureen. Okay, at this time to the public, we're going to sign out of this and go into executive session. We should be back, I don't think any more than 15 minutes, Mr.
Yeah,
Kevin?
10, 15 minutes.
Okay, 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll sign back on. So everybody, you have to leave this meeting and then sign into the executive session, okay? We're waiting for Pat, right?
And Adalia.
Natalia.
I think.
Irfan, do you have to take the roll again? Are they telling you have to do it again when you return?
No, it was just for the getting into the executive session.
Irfan, do you want me to send you what I read?
Yeah, I can forward to the board members.
Okay, well, either that, or I didn't know if you, as far as putting whatever you were going to put in the minutes. I'll send it to you, whatever you need to do with it then. Okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Lizzie was giving a thumbs up.
That's I'll just wait for
There's
Dahlia.
Dahlia.
Okay. Are we on? Okay, can I have a motion to go back into regular meeting?
So moved, Pat.
Pat, can I have a second? Morning, okay. Before we close, I'd also like to thank Pat McHale, Jim Moore, Irene Miller, and Adriana Kern for your year of service. Over 3 years, and we've done a lot in the district over the past 3 years. You know, we've had our highs and lows, and again, thankless job, but you know, we get through it. And again, thank you so much. And like Mr. Kennedy said, I hope I see you on our attendees list, Maureen Miller. So thank you, and I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and can I have a motion to close?
So moved, Pat.
Yeah, I
Can I have a second?
just sent something to the superintendent. I didn't know if we should just vote to accept the recommendation of the superintendent on that personnel matter. So it's a matter of record in December.
Okay. Do you want to read, Nathaniel? Do you want to?
Damien?
Kathy, you were muted when you were saying something.
I was making a motion to accept your recommendation on the personnel matter, but if Nathaniel has something to read.
No, I think as long as we, you know, that's fine. On the personnel matter involving employee, do you have his initials?
KB.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I would like to have the board accept that.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Who's second?
Second by Pat.
Pat.
Yeah.
Okay, Irving, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yeah.
Mr. McHale?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Van Buren?
Yes.
Mrs. Coles?
Yeah.
Motion carried.
Sorry, but
Motion.
I wanted to do that. Happy holidays.
Yes. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Kathy. Okay. Good evening.
Say well, everybody.
Happy New
Thank
Year.
you.
Happy New Year. May it be.
Lisa, Happy New Year.